Good evening. Welcome to Laughing Monk Music Show. Today we have Morning Goblin. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
So I'm excited to have you on. We're talking part of the show. I'm a huge fan. I've been loving you guys for years, and this new album, Science Not Fiction, is is fantastic. When I've heard of it already, uh, the diversity, and then on top of that, you have a new member change,
Yeah,
and the album's strong. I mean, previous member was fantastic bass player too, so it's nice to have somebody that kind of fits in, and it feels like it's just different energy. And you could
yeah,
probably expand on the creativeness of that. It probably feels a little different.
yeah. Well, Martin, the previous bass player, was obviously an original member. They'd been there since
Hmm.
day one. We were bored teenagers around 1994, 95, and decided to start a band ourselves. And Martin had never played the bass when we started the band. He'd never even picked up a bass. But his dad had
Wow.
one lying around the house, so he gave it a shot and just said, if you need a bass player, then I'll do it. And I was similar as a front man. I'd never sang before. I was more sport orientated at school. But we all sort of had a mutual love of Black Sabbath and Motorhead and Iron Maiden and stuff. So we decided to start a band. Never had any sort of idea of where it would lead, but because Martin had been sort of a permanent fixture from day one, and being a self-taught bass player, he was incredible because he became a very very talented bass player, and because we grew up from that early stage and we've been doing this band for nearly 30 years, we'd always said that if any of the original members left, we'd call it a day. And obviously, when Martin came to us and said that he decided that he needed to leave, he was very insistent, said, I don't want it to be the end of the band. He says, you need to carry on. He says, you got, unfinished business. And he suggested that we went for Harry to play the bass, which was a very sort of simple decision for all of us because Harry had been a friend of ours since the very start of the band as well. In them early days, we used to tour with Hangnail and played shows together. Harry guested on the Big Black album. I'd sang on Hangnail's album. And, Harry has always been in and around Orange Goblin anyway. And if you asked him now, he says he always feels that he was part of Orange Goblin anyway. So when Martin did make the decision to leave, and it was purely amicable, there was no ill feeling. Martin gave us the blessing to continue. And Martin's still, you know, my closest friend. He lives around the corner. Actually, I'm on my way to his house later this evening to watch the England game on telly with him. And we just said, yeah, it wasn't a case of having to audition bass players and go through all that rigmarole because that can be a pain for a band. So Harry was just a phone call. Just said, "Do you want to join Orange Goblin?" He said yes, and it could have been a difficult time, but um, obviously COVID happened around 2020, and that gave Harry a lot of time to sit at home with no shows happening, and he learned all of our songs, and it was a very smooth transition in that respect. So we didn't, have any problems, and by the time the world opened again in 2021, Harry hit the ground running. He knew all our stuff. So it was a really smooth transition. And when we started writing material for this new album, Harry was already sort of locked into place. He fit like a hand in a velvet glove, so to speak. And, we encouraged him to come forward and be a part of the creative process. We didn't want it to be like Metallica with Jason Newsted, sorry,
Right.
and be like new kid
Right.
and stuff out his bass on the mix and things like that. But so Harry came into this really well prepared, and we encouraged his ideas. We knew he was on the same page as us musically. We share a lot of the same favorite bands and things like that. Harry's also got a lot of not different tastes, but tastes that we'd never sort of incorporated into our sound before. He loves stuff like Voivod and King Crimson and even
Nice.
weights and stuff like that. So he brings something different to the table, but at the same time, he's sort of the other side of the same coin. I always compare the two. Like Martin's bass playing is very similar to that of Geezer Butler, which suits Orange Goblin down to the ground, whereas Harry is more
Yep.
like Lemon. and that too suits Orange Goblin down to the ground. So we're fortunate that it's not a massive change for us, and I think with the new album, you can hear it's the sound of a band rejuvenated and at the same time welcoming to everything that Harry brings to it as well. So yeah, we're really pleased with how this album's come out, and the bass is obviously a major part of our sound. With only one guitar, you need to fill that space. Harry does that with the tones that he uses, and working with Mike Exeter, he sort of explored that freedom of sound, and there's so much space on this record. You can clearly identify every instrument on there, and it's refreshing. It sounds really good.
A lot of the tracks that I've heard, the bass stands out on its own. It sounds
Yeah,
like it's produced well, where everything is spaced well. I'm excited to hear the rest of it. Yeah, but to your, you guys have always had some pretty well produced music to begin with and good songs. When you step back for a second, when you say you guys, you weren't a singer and he wasn't a bass player, right from the beginning though, you guys were always doing interesting music. That's one thing I love about you guys. Like each album was like a different flavor and sort of you didn't. I mean, you guys have a
yeah,
sound. Don't get me wrong,
yeah,
but sometimes you guys were all over. You guys had different sounds and rhythms, and even the drums had like a different beats to it. Like, is that a jazz beat? Is that a is that some progressive jazz over here? Is it some like all the riffs? Everything a little different. Your verses, your
yeah.
your lyrics, your patterns, the way you sing. Sometimes you would do something, you'd mix it up a little bit. I don't know if
Yeah,
everybody heard it. It
I,
was kind of like the back.
I think it's because, we all come from kind of different backgrounds, not just personally, but musically as well. Chris, our drummer, he was a guitarist and a bass player originally, and he played drums in a hardcore band called Fabric, just out of necessity, really. And he's a really good drummer, solid.
Yeah,
But he
he's
comes,
really good.
like I say, he comes from that sort of hardcore, um, punk rock sort of background. His favorite bands are the likes of Minor Threat and Fugazi and Discharge and Black Flag
Mhm.
and Circle Jerks and stuff like that. And then you've got Joe, who he likes a certain amount of metal as well, but he's much more influenced by stuff like Hendrix and Zeppelin and 70s rock and old blues
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I think you can hear that in his sound. And then you got Martin and myself that came from a more sort of Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Metallica, Black Sabbath sort of background. And it kind of what we intended to do when we started the band was never have anything off limits, because I think that would be boring and restrictive to us as
Right.
musicians.
Yeah.
And we always said the reason for forming Orange Goblin was because we liked so many diverse tastes that you'd have to stick on different albums to hear them all. We wanted to put them all into one album, into one band. So, you might have a bit of Sabbath or Motorhead in one song, you might have a bit of Maiden and Priest in another, you might have a bit of Lynyrd Skynyrd and ZZ Top in one, you might have, some
I
punk
hear some
rock.
Southern every now and then too. I was going to ask you, is there someone who's into Southern rock? Every time I hear a riff
Yeah, I
or a
mean,
lick,
we're all fans of, like, Creedence Clearwater Revival and the Allman Brothers, and as I say, ZZ Top and Skinner and stuff like that as well.
yeah,
So we came out at a time where there was kind of an explosion of what was called stoner rock, and I don't really even know how you define stoner rock. Stoner rock could be, you
I
listen to
struggle with that myself.
you kind of Black Sabbath could be stoner rock. You could listen to the Orb,
Yeah,
and that could be stoner rock. You could listen to, I don't know, Pink Floyd. Is that stoner rock? It's like stoner rock is just
it could be.
good music. It's whatever you want it to, and it got banded around as bands that were primarily influenced by Black Sabbath, I guess. And you can tie it to Black
Yeah,
Sabbath because of the Sweet Leaf thing. But for me, stoner rock is more in line with sort of Caius and Sleep and those American
yeah.
bands. And it served us well. But we never really wanted to be pigeonholed as just a stoner rock band, which is why we tried to make a point of incorporating all those different influences into our sound from the get-go. And as you say, on Time Traveling Blues, as the title track sounds
Yeah.
like, could be on a Skinner album. And even back to the first album, you have Magic Carpet, which was more up tempo and aggressive in a Motorhead Discharge sort of vein. um so yeah, we've never been shy. We like a lot of different music, and I'd hate to be kind of considered someone that's very set in their ways musically. If you was to look through the CD collection behind me now, you'd find everything from sort of classical music and Elton John through to Motown and Stax Records and
Yeah.
and bits of everything because I enjoy music and I think that's the beauty of music. It's subjective, but there's nothing's off limits. You can listen to a bit of everything and still have that kind of framework of what you do.
I think it's interesting. Like a lot of metal fans and metal players and people have the most eclectic collections. Like I have a collection like that. Like I think a lot of people that are really based in that metal world
Yeah,
initially are very much into, like I say, Elton John. The reference that classical music can be so heavy. Like people who
yeah,
just can go deep into every type of music where you don't always get that everywhere else. And I think
yeah,
it shows in the influence. I mean, time travel was my gateway drug to you guys.
yeah.
And I was like, dude, that's fantastic because you're space rock, and I struggle with it. To me, I don't even know. Like you get it's the big '70s fat riffs, but it's the speed is like like a Motorhead, and so I can't quantify you guys into a sound. That's why hopefully more people will be open to you from my channel to check you out because you guys aren't particularly one type of genre.
No,
You
that's
know,
it.
there's so many influences. You guys are heavy though. Your voice has just got some and it's
I think
strong, but
I think
just you got a groove.
we identify ourselves as music fans first and foremost, but we also understand that the average music fan doesn't want to listen to the same thing over and over for 45 minutes. Like, I'm
No,
a huge fan of Hawkwind, but I struggle to listen to an entire hour of Hawkwind because it gets very samey. And
right.
it's the same, I like Led Zeppelin, but I don't want to hear a 22-minute version of Dazed and Confused when it's
You guys are
Jimmy
right.
just sort of wanking off with a bow playing the guitar and things like that. So I like to keep things interesting and mix things up, and that's what we've always tried to do. And yeah, I'm glad it's kind of finally been noticed now because when we started out and we recorded frequencies from Planet 10, it all happened really quickly. Like I said, there was no preconception of what we wanted the band to be. And being London based, we was always asked to be the local support when the likes of Fu Manchu and Kaius came through town, and we soon got
Yeah,
sort of noticed. And Lee Dorian picked us up and signed us to Rise Above Records. So before we knew it, we was kind of had an album out, and we was touring Europe on a bus with Cathedral, and it kind of far exceeded our expectations even by then. So we were kids in a candy store recording those first albums. We'd go in there and we'd see all these buttons and instruments. We'd go, what does this do? Let's put that on there. Let's see what that sounds like. And then, as you mature, you become better songwriters, you become better musicians, and as anybody that does a job for 30 years, you should improve at it. And
you
that's where I
should.
feel.
Not always, not always.
No, that's where I feel we've landed with science, not fiction. I think we've learned to hone our craft a little bit. We found our niche with our sound and everything. We know what people expect from us, people want from us, and we just deliver it now with a little bit more professionalism and a bit more knowledge.
I think I will say this. I think obviously you guys get together with your lack of training, whatever. It could have been a mess. There's a lot of bands, probably thousands of bands that just wanted to get together and play that couldn't do it. You guys were just like unshined diamonds. You just had your skills. You guys had musical taps in you. You just
Yeah,
hadn't been tapped yet. So the
yeah,
odds of all you guys not having, so that is very special. So you've got a lot of really good things like musically kind of fall into place, even just bass play situation. Because I mean, you could have the best musician, but everybody will say, I'd rather have a mediocre musician on tour with me
yeah,
than the best guitar player who's just a jerk. I mean, so
yeah,
you already have somebody you got along with, and he was good, and you can write songs with.
yeah.
I mean, you could have written a better script,
That's
you
it.
know?
I mean, people often ask like, "Oh, you must have had some difficult times in your career." And to be honest, we haven't really. We started the band, like I said, because we were friends anyway. So we've always got along. There's never been any issues. There's no egos in the band. No one's a dick. And if they was, we'd tell them and take the piss out of them. So it hasn't been hard to sort of keep things together and keep things on track and keep ourselves grounded. And there haven't been that many difficult times. Pete left the band in 2002 after our first US tour, which could have been a problem, but we just decided to carry on as a four-piece anyway with the same lineup. And as you say, when Martin decided to leave, we already had a ready-made replacement in Harry. And
Yeah,
it's just it's been a pretty smooth ride. We've been very fortunate. All the bands we've toured with and gone out on the road with and supported or taken on tour with us we've got along with because, like I say, we're down to earth and we don't have any airs and graces. We don't think too much of ourselves. We don't take it too seriously. And we were a little bit naive and rough around the edges in the early days because we was young and we thought it was an excuse for a piss up. You know, we'd turn up at venues and there's all a fridge full of free
Right.
beer, and we'd sort of take advantage of that. But then as you get older and you grow a fan base, you learn the responsibility you have towards those fans who have parted with their hard-earned cash to come and see the band. So you want to put on the best show possible, and that it's I look back and people say, do you have any regrets? And I don't have any regrets. You know, we were a little bit boisterous in our early days and played up a bit, but that only served to kind of
You're
guide us
supposed
to.
to.
We learned from that, and it's made us a better band because of it. You know, in 2013, I think it was, we did an 8 week tour of North America and Canada with Clutch, and getting to watch their operation every night was really eye-opening for us. Those guys are super professional. They put on an amazing show every night. They're committed to like rehearsing before they play and knowing what they need to do on stage each night, and we sort of learnt from that. And you pick things up as you go along, and it helps you develop. And I feel that we're a better band because of it.
It's funny you say Clutch because I would think if there's one band I see a similarity, not in the music sound, but it being once again an unclassifiable rock band that people just look at a certain type of stoner space rock band that has so much going on in the music. If you
Yeah,
listen to it, each album that they're not getting full credit for. I see a similarity there where there's so much going on in your music because you guys, one of the phrases I like to use on a show is, I love this, you serving a song. I mean, you've got these singers in some songs and, you know, other types of music and they just go on singing these notes every single verse or something like you don't need to hear it. Like it's just too much. Too much of a
yeah,
solo. Are you losing yourself in the song? And you talk about Zeppelin for 20 minutes. Are you losing yourself in the song? And some people like that. That's cool. But you guys are serving a song. So each album is different. So it's more enjoyable for me to go back and listen to you guys or a Clutch album or this and that more often because I'm hearing new things each time. Or
yeah.
it's celebrating the song.
Yeah, I appreciate what you're saying there. It's Clutch is one of those bands where no two albums sound the same. They're always
Yeah,
exciting because you don't know what to expect, and it's always just good, honest hard rock. And I
right,
think you can draw similarities between ourselves and Clutch in that Clutch are again, they're friends. They grew up together and they've had that solid lineup in place, no sort of changes. And I think that goes a long way towards a band being able to express itself. When you're chopping and changing members all the time, maybe there's one guy in the band that's a dick and hard to get on with, and that causes friction within the
right.
band, and then you'd lose that creativity. When you've got that solid backbone of the band, you don't have to think about that. You can just focus on what it is you're there to do, and that's create decent music. And I think we've always had that.
I imagine, and the thing is, you also are. I enjoy as a fan of music myself, and most musicians that I really enjoy are biggest fans like you are fans of music yourself. Is there's no like Tom Fuller, there's no garbage. You're not hearing all kinds of Orange Goblins arguing with this band. There's this problem on stage. Hear nothing. Orange
Yeah,
Goblin goes on stage. You watch a show. You're gonna get a good solid show. The album's coming out. It's gonna be a good solid album. Some new music. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
it. You know what you're gonna get. It's not gonna be like, oh, what is going on with this band now? And it's like, I don't know. I'm in my 50s, so I'm like, I could care less to hear about that stuff. I just want to hear some good music. And
exactly.
the world's on fire, man. I just want to enjoy some good music. And
That's
and, and your
that's
lyrics are always smart and fun.
That's it. You get some bands that take it all far too seriously and think that they should be out there, sort of a voice of a generation, change the world. Just shut up and make
Right.
music. That's what you're
Yeah.
there to do.
Yeah. I don't need a voice. I have enough voices in my head,
Exactly.
man.
Yeah.
I got enough
Yeah.
kids in my head, enough voice. You
Yeah.
guys also did so. Science fiction is coming out really soon, and there's three singles up now. The first album just starts off. The first song starts off as the first single on the first album. The first song. It's like almost like to me, it feels like controlled chaos. It feels very eclectically like it's like da, 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 da. But if you listen to it, it's very precise. But when you
Yeah.
first hear it coming out of your speakers, you're like, oh my God, it's like a stampede.
Yeah.
But then when you listen to the bass music, if you can pick each piece apart, you're like, oh, I get it. It's all just going towards something. And then you just come roaring in with like with first line like and not apologizing. Like you just come in strong right from the ground. This is
Yeah.
the tone of the album going on through.
Well,
And
when we
each single's come out, they're different.
when we wrote Fire at the Center of the Earth is Mine, we instantly knew that that was a
Yeah.
perfect album opener because it's a very typical kind of Orange Goblin song in tempo, in sound and everything. And we've often had songs similar to that to open albums, like of Red Tide Rising and Sons of Salem in the
Yeah.
past. And the whole thing was kind of like a statement. The fire at the center of the earth is mine. It's like the world's going to shit, but the the main thing you should focus on is yourself and what you do, so that when you go down finally, you can say, "Well, I tried my part. I tried my best to be the best I could be. Treat people with
Mhm.
respect." And things like that. Be polite and at least the fire at the center of the earth is mine. I can own that. I can claim that. And that's why the first line is I'll not apologize for the bastards that I've been because I can't go back and change that. That's part of my past. But what I can do is make myself better moving forward and be a better human to be around. So it's not apologize. I'm not going to sort of dwell on the past and the places I've been and things like that. I'm gonna look forward. And it's about it says how can I sympathize with stars that refuse to shine and all that sort of thing? It's like, what? Don't bother wasting your time with people that aren't prepared to, put the effort in. It's we only get a short time on this planet, and you've got to make every day count. So it's one of those sort of songs. It was kind of like I got an anthemic sort of feel to it, but
It
that's not.
is, but you do something. I'm sorry, I didn't step over you. You do things in a way, and I don't mean to shine on you, but it was well, what we're talking about, and I listen to you a lot if I'm doing stuff. I'm hearing the lyrics. You say things in a way where it doesn't come across. I also enjoy it. It's not like preachy or pompous. It's just here's how I feel. Here's how I see it. Appreciate this. And that's when you're more serious lyrics because you do have fun lyrics too. We do other
That's it.
theater
In the
songs.
past, my lyrics were always kind of like a form of escapism because we was young, we were still working shitty jobs, and the band was a hobby, which it still is. We still have to work. We're not full-time musicians, but back then we was young and enthusiastic, and obviously influenced by stuff like Dio and Rainbow, and it was cool to sing about dragons and wizards, and that's never going to be boring. That's still fun.
No,
But as you get older, you want to explore something else and do something different. And obviously, the last couple of years, I quit drinking, quit drugs and smoking, and got myself fit and healthy. I've been sober for over 2 years
congratulations to
now.
you.
Thank you. And it kind of opens your eyes to the world around you. And I just wanted to sort of touch on that. And I've never, like you say, I don't want to preach to people because everybody's a grown up and everybody can make their own decisions. But I like my lyrics to be sort of open to interpretation. People can
Which are the
sort of
best.
read into it what they want. They can sort of make their own assumptions, and whether they agree with certain things or not, that's entirely up to them. I'm not going to get into arguments over it because I've got the freedom to sort of express my voice through Orange Goblin, and that's what I choose to do.
You changing, well, you got sobering up or however it comes across with anyone ever make the change and they have their own epiphany, at least feel like they're gonna put it on the world. You didn't do that, and it didn't change the band. It became part of the lyrics in a
I,
way,
I
sort of,
don't, I don't
which is
want to be.
nice because that would have been kind of weird for a fan.
Yeah, I don't want to be one of these people that sort of preach about it and sort of ram it down people's throats saying you should do this because, like I say, everybody can make their own decisions. I chose to do that because I'd had, a good 30 years of partying with the band and I've had some amazing times. I don't regret any of that. But the time was right for me to make a change because my loved ones were suffering, my wife was suffering, I was becoming depressive, I was out of shape, and my performance was suffering as a result of that. And I just weren't a pleasant person to be around, whether it was, like my family and my bandmates or
Yeah.
whatever. My business was suffering. So one morning I just said, enough's enough. It's time for a change. I'm going to go down this path now. And, I don't mind being around the rest of the band because they still like to have a drink and have a bit of fun and all power to them, and it's my decision. I'm quite happy doing what I do now. And it's kind of I feel like for a large part of our career, I kind of missed out because I would either be on a tour bus or in a dressing room, either
Yeah.
drinking, sleeping off a hangover. And since I stopped, on tours, I now get up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I go for a nice long walk for a few hours, put a podcast on my headphones, and
Yeah.
I get to explore all these beautiful cities and cultures and places that I've been and never necessarily sort of taken notice of. And now I'm visiting historic landmarks and places I can say that I remember. So it's great for me.
Maybe it's like maybe younger, you wouldn't have appreciated it anyhow, being a younger man, rock and roll band anyhow at the time. So you got a little
Exactly.
both. You kind of got both. You got the fun, you get the party. Now you're the educated
Yeah.
older statesman who can appreciate it
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
share it. You look fantastic, and
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. It's happy to hear that, and it shows the music, it shows the energy. I do want to talk about before we wrap this up. I want to talk about you do a live album also. Talk about the opening track of another strong. The whole album is strong. Is it a combination of mixed recordings, or is it from one show?
It was. I mean, the live album came about because, as I say, COVID hit in 2020, and we had a load of stuff lined up to celebrate our 25th anniversary, and all of a sudden that got cancelled. And as a band, obviously, you still have overheads. We still have accountants to pay, and we still had rehearsal rooms to pay for our storage and for our equipment and stuff like that. And we were like, what are we going to do? There's no live shows. We're not going to have any income this year. So our sound man at the time, he had a load of recordings that he'd made from shows in London and Athens and a couple of others. And he said, why don't we put together this live album, like a digital live album? Because the intention was it was just going to be a digital thing that was just going to be available on the band's Bandcamp page. And, Bandcamp were really reasonable to bands during COVID because they did the
Mhm.
Bandcamp Fridays were once a month, 100% of the income went straight to the band. And it was a good stopgap, but it proved to be really popular with the fans. And all of a sudden, we had people saying, are we going to see a physical release of this? And we spoke to a couple of labels and they were really keen to do it. So there was a CD release and then a vinyl release. And, it really helped us through some hard times during the COVID pandemic. And yeah, it sounds great. We
Oh
weren't
yeah.
even aware that our sound man had these recordings. He said, check these out, see what you think. We could put a set together and make it into a live album. And we were like, yeah, this is great. It's
You didn't
not
even know that? Oh my God, it sounds for a live album. Because sometimes you get mixed, what I'm saying? You've heard some of our favorite bands, like the live recordings are
yeah.
garbage, but you'll
That's
still
it. I
listen
mean,
to it. Well,
you know
these
what the
tracks
fun,
here are not garbage. They're clean and sound
the
precise.
funny thing is, before we even heard what we'd got in the vault, we'd decided that we thought the name Rough and Ready Live and Loud was a good name for a live album because it sounded like Motorhead would use it. And we
It does.
we we are a little bit rough and ready round the edges when it comes to our live performance. When you don't turn up to an Orange Goblin show expecting to hear Pink Floyd. You know there's going to
No.
be some mistakes. There's going to be some missed cues and things like that. But that's all part and parcel of the energy and the rawness of what rock and roll should be, I think. I don't want to hear a band be pristine and exactly how it is on record. When I go to a live show, I want to feel it and I want to experience something that you don't get from the recorded output. So yeah, it came across really well. And like I say, it just served as a perfect stopgap in that period between the Wolf Bites Back and the new album.
I think one thing that I started with when this COVID happened, I started the show during when COVID happened because I wanted to promote bands that weren't getting on, encourage people, go to the websites, buy the merch, support them on Bandcamp. That was literally the goal of the show. I get nothing out of this show besides that. I don't get money or anything. It's just my love of music and promoting it. And this is a good point. You still have everyone in the band is still working other jobs, and so like I want to say when one of them come to town, go to the show. They're still working on jobs. It's not like they're like flying in on private jets. This isn't Beyonce. These are working class bands that come in. They're coming into town. They're coming to town. It's not that easy. There's cost,
Yeah,
there's travel, and there's gas, and and people say, oh, the merch costs money. Well, guess what? To tow the merch behind costs money. Just to tow the merch, different layers of colors on the shirts. How many extra shirts are you going to bring? The cost, the venue taxes you. This group taxes you. It's so minute. The money to make from a $40 sweatshirt is so small.
oh,
Buy the sweatshirt, be quiet.
you're preaching to the choir here. I mean,
I'm saying to you, I'm saying to the people listening, I really want them to understand that you guys are not
any
living high on the horse.
anytime any
Support the artist.
anytime we announce shows, we get, the obvious people saying, "Oh, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And why aren't you coming to Brazil? Why aren't you coming back to like some town in the middle of nowhere in the US?" And we're like, we would love to. We'd love nothing more than coming and playing to our fans. I said, but you have to appreciate the costs involved. And they've only got
Oh yeah.
worse, especially since Brexit and, US visas have gone up now. And touring, it's hard. It's an expensive business when you factor in flights and accommodation and backline hire and transport and crew wages and things like that. So we try and do as much as we can. And, people like yourselves can only be a good thing for us because you're championing music that is
That's it.
still underground, and everybody knows who Taylor Swift is because she's all over every TV show and radio and everything. But bands like ourselves and Clutch, we have to dig ourselves out of the trenches, and with support of podcasts and radio shows and things like that, it certainly helps. So we appreciate it.
Well, I think a lot of us, and like I said, I do it for money, and I do it for like it's. I grew up in the same aesthetic, like you get the magazines, the punk magazines, you get to do it yourself, you do it yourself, everything's and support your artist, and I love putting the time in because this kind of conversation is a conversation you're going to have with a fan at a pub, at a show. And I'm going to tell you, if you guys came to the U.S., I'll tell people you're going to the U.S. All right, well, it'd be like a couple grand per visa per member of the band. Then they have to get approved. And then if you guys bring anybody that roadie with you, then you're talking about the gear. Are you going to rent the gear? Are you going to get a van? And then you get taxed from the U.S. going in. The venues are going to hit you, and you come out, you're going to get taxed, and you may get taxed in your own country again. So
Yeah,
it's literally most bands are touring in the red just to come see the fans. Um,
absolutely.
so it's important and going venue to venue after COVID, the gas and then the venues are taking more money from the artists now. You know, artists are being hit so many times over.
Yeah, that's
It's
one thing
bananas.
I find really sort of offensive when now you've got venues that are taking a cut of bands' merchandise. I
That upsets
feel that
me.
there should be reciprocated with the band then get a cut of the bar takings each night because those people wouldn't be in that room if it weren't for them. So,
And
there's
nobody drinks better than rockers.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, there's a lot of obstacles in the way. And we do as much as we can because you know what, 30 years on, we still enjoy it as much as we did the day we started. I'll be 50 in December. Our drummer's 53, Harry's 51, Joe will be 50 next year. But we still have that youthful enthusiasm to keep making music. And it's people like you, it's the fans that buy our records, the people that buy our t-shirts and everything that goes with it that keep us, hungry to do it. We feel blessed, not going to lie, we're very appreciative that 30 years on we still have a fan base and we still have people that want to listen to our music. And it's not often said in music, but we really do appreciate our fans, and we realize how lucky we are to get to go to all these amazing places. Like I said, we started the band with no idea of where it was going to lead. We'd have been happy to just do a 3-track demo and play some gigs in our local pubs. But, I've through Orange Goblin, I've been all around Europe. I've been to Japan. I've been to Australia and New Zealand. I've been to the USA. I've been to Canada. I've been to Russia. I've been everywhere. And it's a blessing. It really is. I'm truly thankful for it. So I really enjoyed being in Orange Goblin for 30 years, and it's something I hope continues.
I think your music can inspire people. And I think for you, for any artist, what a great gift that you've done something that's helped people get through hard times or happy times. What a great gift you've given someone. You don't even know you've touched somebody in a way. I mean, there's just
It's
so many things that as an artist, it's reciprocal. I think the fans do that.
yeah,
That's why a fan like me would
those
want to
sort
have
of
you on
things.
my show.
Those sort of things are really touching. We have had people write us letters and come to our shows and say, your music got me through some really difficult times when I'd lost family members and stuff. And when you hear that from honest working class folk, that's to me, that's worth more than 10 million album sales. It's
Yeah.
just knowing that you've touched someone's life and they'll always be grateful for that. So yeah, it's a rewarding business in that respect.
As a working class musician, you may have a neighbor who say, "This is not a dig at them." Say has a nice car dealership and they're making some big money. They're not. Everybody say, "You know what? Buying that car from you saved my life because I had a hard time."
Yeah.
You're the one who's going
Yeah.
to have the story of something you wrote that's going to affect them in a way differently that you can't put a price on. And it sounds silly, but it's so much more important in this world. How the mark you're going to leave. And and I want to tell people. So, like you said, the show started with me actually years ago as a show for Dweezil's Alpha, and people were complaining about the price of the shirts, and that's what got me going on this whole big thing. So I want to go circle back to this. You guys have a great website, and you actually stay right on it. You guys run your website. You guys are on it. You got
Yeah.
some great merch. I mean, that is one of the rules of stoner rock, space rock, whatever. You've got to have cool looking stuff. And I don't think there's any band that does some kind of rock music that has really sucky stuff. And you guys are, got some great looking merch, great artwork. We don't have to come dig into it. Maybe another time we can dig into some of the artwork and stuff. Want to respect your time, but you have such great looking merch and shirts on your site and music. Go there or go to Bandcamp because if you can't get a shirt, do a digital download. If you can't, I'd love to see you guys in the US, but I understand the challenges financially.
Well, we've
And
just announced we're coming back to the US next year. We're going to
oh,
do
yeah, I didn't even say that.
just one exclusive show at Maryland Death Fest in May. Um, there'll be no other shows around it just due to the time off issue because we all have to get back for work. With it being our 30th anniversary next year, we wanted to do something special in the US, and obviously Maryland Death Fest is a big event there, and they were really cool with sorting out the deal for us to make sure it happened.
Did I get?
So yeah, we'll be over
Oh,
there in May next year.
I might have to do that. I don't usually travel that much, but
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of loud groups of people, but I do make shows. You always catch me at an obsessed show in my area. I'll say that.
yeah,
So I'll have to see if I can get out to see you guys then, because that would be definitely worth it if I can get the time to go to see you. So people make sure they see you if they are fans of you in the U.S. to plan out the day, check you guys out because it'd be a
yeah.
special event.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last time we played Maryland Death Fest was 2011. We haven't toured the States
Wow.
since 2019. Actually, no, we did some stuff in 2022. We did Desert Fest New York and played a show in Seattle and Boston and place near Philadelphia. So, but the US has been great to us. We came over there for the first time in 2002. It was such a hard tour. We did something like 38 shows in 39 days, and we didn't know how big the country was, so we was just like taken by surprise when it was kind of come off stage at midnight, jump in the van, drive for 16 hours to the next show, unload the van, do a show, get in the van, drive for another 12 hours, and it's like Jesus Christ, and it was really hard work.
I feel like I'm traveling across Europe, right? You're like at 6 hours, I should bet another country.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it took us a day just to get out of Texas.
Yeah, Texas is big. That's
Yeah.
it.
So,
It's big in Texas.
but yeah, you get an American band come over here and they complain that they've got a 2-hour drive to get from Glasgow to Manchester, and we're just like, fucking hell, how can you complain about that?
No, it's appreciated. I think you guys sound like a good, I think the reason why America likes you is because you sound like a big, chunky sounding 70s rock band that we don't hear anymore on some
Yeah,
level. Because you got that
but that's
croon,
it. I
that
mean,
funky, thick sounding. You know what I mean?
we love a lot of that American sort of classic 70s rock, the likes of Grand Funk
Right.
Railroad and Foot, and that played a big part in inspiring us to start a band in the first place. If you asked Martin who his favorite bass player was, he would have said Mark Farner, I'd have thought. So, he always appreciated that huge bass sound. So, yeah, American rock has always had a special place in our hearts, I think, even though that we've tried to maintain that we're quintessentially British because we are. There's no denying that. But without the likes of, as I say, Grand Funk and Blackfoot,
Mm.
ZZ Top, and Skinner, and even stuff like Kiss and the likes. We would. I mean, one of my favourite bands of all time is Blue Oyster Cult. And what I love about Blue Oyster Cult is that they're very similar to us in that you can't really pigeonhole them. They do a little bit of
No,
everything. To me, they're like the Beatles of metal or hard rock, whereas they've got so much different stuff going on, and that's what I love in music.
it's crazy that a band like I say that they're only known for like one song. When if you listen to all their other albums, they should have been so huge. Like for me,
Absolutely.
I love them. Their albums
I,
are
I
so
put
diverse.
with
So
the belt
people,
tattoo on my wrist here.
oh, there you go. Their newest stuff, have you heard of their newer albums lately?
Yeah, they're
Fantastic.
great.
They have not, yeah.
Yeah,
And their albums are so different. So they hear those like the two songs, the jokes, that's fun. It's good to laugh. Don't take yourself seriously. And they don't complain about it, which is like you guys aren't complaining about, sales or anything because you guys don't complain. But I'm
I
telling
mean,
you guys, check out the music, buy the merch. It's good stuff. There's a lot of good music out there and support your artists though.
COC had their lineup changes over the years, but they're still out there. Eric Bloom's still doing it, and Buck Dahmer's still doing it, and they like I say, they still sound great. The
Yeah.
records are as relevant as they've ever
I think it
been.
shows their songwriting skills, those two guys, is what it is. They are the
Yeah,
core sound, and they
yeah,
they can get away with having. That's one of the situations where some bands can have less members move in and out, and it
yeah,
doesn't change the dynamic.
yeah,
They are the core, kind of like a Steely Dan type of thing of metal. You know what I mean? Where it's
yeah.
kind of like they kind of hold that sound together.
Yeah.
You know, I want to thank you for coming out today and giving me some time. This has been fantastic.
My absolute pleasure. Well, like I say, we appreciate the support, and if you do make it out to Maryland for the Death Fest next year,
Uh,
let's meet up and have a
let's
mineral
connect.
water.
I would love that. It'd be an honor. Thank you very much. So people check out the album. The new live album is out already. We get three tracks off Science Nonfiction is out. Um, what is it? July? What is the new the
July
release of the new
19th.
one?
July
July
19th.
9th is the full release date. Okay, I'll be listening to the full day. And I'm gonna tell you what, I don't usually talk about albums that are out unless I get to hear the whole album because I usually hear full albums. In this situation, this is one of the rare situations. If I've ever heard three tracks, I'm like, I've got to have you on or talk about it. I can't wait because
Yeah.
I'm excited about this album. So this is one of those rare situations. Thanks, man, and we'll talk again. It'd be great. Thank you.
Nice one. Thank you very much, Sean. Appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye bye.